Hello everyone. Welcome to another Q&A live on White Davy Gardening and Worm Farm. Today we're going to be discussing 12 plants that repels insects. I apologize for being a bit late. Right, so whether it is in our home or in our garden, we all from time to time face pests that we would like to get rid of. Oh, hi, Ann White. And so we're going to be discussing plants that you can use to repel these pests. Okay. Hi, Sian. How are you guys doing? Okay, so we're going to start off by discussing the first. Oh, just a minute, let me silence this device. That's what I thought. Right, so we're going to start off by discussing the first plant that repels insect. Oh, you're good. That's great. Right, so we're going to start off by discussing the first plant and what it repels. And the first one is basil or basil, whichever way you want to pronounce it. And this herb is very good in your kitchen, but it is also very good for repelling insects like mosquitoes, house flies, carrot flies, asparagus flies, or asparagus beetle, and white flies. And this can be planted pretty close to your house to help repel house insects that you do not want. Now, oh, hi, Mom. What do you use to control pests in your garden? What plants do you use? Do you interplant in order to repel pests? Okay, so while you're answering that question, let's look at the next plant that you can use to repel pests around your garden and your kitchen. Bay leaf is another good one to plant. You can even crush the leaves of these plants that I'm mentioning here and use them to make a solution to spray on your plants. But they tend to be more effective when you plant them in your garden rather than just making a solution out of them. And some of these plants that I'm going to be discussing, they're actually used as one of the active ingredients in mosquito repellent or in pests repellent from your garden. So some of these plants, they're actually used in commercial products to repel insects. Okay, so the next one is the bay leaf, as I said before, and these repel moths, they repel flies, mice, earwigs, roaches, and weevils. So the bay leaf is more effective for house pests than for garden pests. And these you can put in your cupboards if you're having insect with these, if you're having problems with these insects, or you can plant them pretty close to your house, or you can make a solution and spray over your doors and your windows, and that will help to repel these house pests. Okay, so the next one, let's see, and White says, I didn't know that. I use it in my jerk sauce. Yes. Okay, so the third plant that you can actually use to repel insects or pests from your garden is chives. This one, it repels carrot rust flies. It repels mice. It repels Japanese beetles and aphids. Right, so these are what the chives repel. And a lot of these plants, especially things like chives and garlic, you can, or you're writing them down. Good idea, then you won't forget. Right, so a lot of these plants, like the chives or any of these plants mentioned that does not occupy a lot of space, you can just plant them around the perimeter of your garden, and occasionally you can have them planted in between other plants in your garden. And as I go along, I am going to be talking about some of the plants here and how you can use them in your garden. Okay, so let's look at the fourth plant that you can use to repel pests from your garden, and that is garlic. And this is one that a lot of people use in their garden for pests. And I like to use it to make a solution to spray for these pests. So garlic repels. See, hi, her healthy home. I'm glad that you were able to join us. Right, so the next thing is the garlic, and this repels root maggots. It repels Japanese beetle, carrot root flies, aphids, codling fish. Sorry, codling moth. Right. So, and one of the things that I like about garlic, as you know, if you are someone who loves roses, roses tend to have a lot of aphids on them from time to time. You can always plant garlic close to your roses, and that will help to control aphids on your roses. And my personal favorite, or one of, is the chrysanthemum. And these repels spider mites, it repels ants, it repels roaches. I was just about to ask, what is that? Okay. Yes, the chrysanthemum. It's such a beautiful flowers, but it is so good at repelling insects. In fact, this is one of the things that they use in making repellents for both insects that are in your home and insects that are in your garden. And some of the repellents that you use on your skin actually has extract from the chrysanthemum plant or flower. Yes, so it repels spider mites, ants, roaches, Japanese beetle, ticks, silver flies, lice, fleas, bed bugs, harlequin bugs, and root knot nematodes. So the chrysanthemum covers a wide variety of insects that it can repel. And as I mentioned in one of my previous live, I think, or video, the chrysanthemum, you can use both the leaf and the plant and the flower to make the repellent. Let's see, make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay, good. Right. And then the next one, the seventh plant that you can use is the citronella grass. And these repels aphids, they repel mosquitoes, thrips, whiteflies, Mexican beetle, and squash bugs, and they also repel tomato hornworms. No, I've never really experienced the tomato hornworms. Never ever seen them, so I don't know what they look like or what effect they have on the plants. Have you ever experienced the tomato hornworms? And if so, How do you treat them? What do they look like? Okay, so let's look at the next plant that you can use to repel the pests from your garden, and that is the lavender plant. How does it ever have such a beautiful flower? And the perfume, it's used to make perfume, and the scent of the flower is just wonderful. Unfortunately, my lavender plant that I've had for 3 years just died in my indoor garden. Let's see. No, I've never. Okay, I've never experienced the tomato hornworms. I'm gonna have to look it up to see what they look like and what damage they do. Okay, and so let's move on to the next one. It is the lavender that repels fleas. It repels moths, mosquitoes, ticks, fleas, lice, and aphids. They also can be attacked by other types of pests. And the good thing about them is that they don't just repel the pests from your garden, but some of these plants actually attract beneficial insects to your garden, and these beneficial insects feed on the pests. So the ninth one is marigold, and this repels plant. It repels mosquitoes, nematodes, and ants. And I think it also repels the tomato hornworm as well. People use this. I've never really used it, but I bought some, as you may have seen in my seed all video. I bought quite a few of these plants that I'm mentioning for that specific reason. Excuse me just a minute there. Okay. Oh, they're a pain to deal with, eh? What do they look like, Kadisha? And what do they affect? Do they affect the plant itself, or do they affect the fruit itself? Okay. So while you're answering that question, let's look at the next plant that you can use to repel the pests from your garden, and that is the mint. Various type of mint, so it's not just one type of mint, but practically all mints are very good in this regard. And they repel aphids, cabbage moth, ants, mosquitoes, and spider mites. Now, although I mentioned the pests that these plants repel, they can repel more insects than these, but I'm just talking about the main ones that they repel that I'm familiar with. Right. And then there is the 11th one, that is petunias, another beautiful flowering plant. And these repel asparagus beetle, leaf hoppers, they repel aphids, tomato hornworms, and other pests as well. And the last one is rosemary, and this repels cabbage moth, they repel bean beetle, they repel carrot flies, mosquitoes, and fleas. So these are the 12 plants that you can use to repel pests from around your home and around your garden. Now I'm going to be discussing these plants a little bit more. So the 12 of them that I mentioned here is beetle, basil, sorry, beetle, I must be going crazy. Basil, bay leaf, chives, dill, garlic, chrysanthemum, citronella grass, lavender, marigold, mint, petunias, and rosemary. Now, some of these plants like soil that is rich in nutrients and have the ability to retain moisture. Some of these plants prefer well drained, loose soil. So you have to research these plants and know what type of soil they prefer in order to know what you can plant them with. Now, here's a question for you. Have you ever planted any of these in your garden, any of these plants? Have when you and if you have you ever seen any positive result? Now, as I was saying before, some of these plants, each of these plants have the type of soil and the type of nutrients that they require. So each of them have the type of insect that they repel. So if you say, for example, you're planting mint as a repellent for the cabbage moth, but say, or if you're planting it to repel whatever insect it repels, say the plant that your main crop loves rich moisture retaining soil, but mint likes well drained soil. But you want to interplant these to get the benefits from it. I planted some of the herbs. I planted some as herb, but never as a repellent. Oh, okay. Right. So, say for example, you're growing mint, and mint loves well drained soil, and you're planting it to act as a repellent for plants that grow in soil that actually loves moisture retaining soil that is rich in nutrients. How can you interplant them to ensure that both conditions are met? You can plant the mint that loves a well drained soil into pots and put them in your garden. That way, you have both type of soil available, but they're not together. So when you're watering, you give the plant that loves a lot of water. A lot of water, the ones that are in pots, you give them a small amount of water and you're good to go. Yes, plant it in containers. That is the best option. Once you have two plants that you want to put together, the best option is if they prefer different type of soil, then you put one in a container. The next reason why it is so good to put mint and some other of these plants that I mentioned in pots is because of the root system that it has. Mint loves to spread root very far, and you don't want the mint to take over your entire garden. The same thing goes for things like chives and green onions, stuff like that. They can spread pretty far in your garden, so you can always plant them in pots to control how much they spread. And the good thing about putting most of these herbs or flowers in pots is that you can always move them around in your garden, or as you come close to the growing season, you can move these herbs into your garden. Sorry, into your indoor garden, or if you have a shed or a greenhouse, then you can put them in there. Okay, so let's see. Right, so I've covered the 12 plants that you can use to repel pests around your home and in your garden. So next week I am going to be discussing these same 12 plants, and I'm going to be telling you more about each of these plants, and then for example the type of soil that they prefer and stuff like that. So that is going to be next week's live. So if you're interested, please feel free to join me. And on Friday as well, I'm going to be having my worm farm Q&A. So if you have any questions, then you can prepare them from now, make a note of them, and join me on Friday for the worm farm Q&A. So we have come to the end of this discussion, unless of course you have any questions. I will just wait a few minutes to see if there are any questions. And okay, so I don't see any questions, so I'm going to be ending the live here. If you have a question that you're typing and I end the live before you get to ask that question, then I will answer the question for you. Oh, Cian, do you make a solution with the plants that you talk about? Yes, I actually make solution with some of them. Garlic is my favorite for making solution for pests. Uh, I use it to treat my aphids and spider mites that I was having last year. And some of these plants, although they can be used to make a solution, best herbs for caterpillars and worms. I don't know that one. But the thing is, the ones that repel cabbage moth, because cabbage moth lays caterpillar. So the ones that repel cabbage moth is pretty good for for caterpillars, but I'm not sure about the worms. So dill and garlic is good for the caterpillars, but I'm not sure about the worms. Let's see. Yes, so the mint, rosemary, dill, and garlic, those are good for caterpillars, but I don't know about for worms. You're welcome, Khadijah. Okay, so I guess that is it. If there are no more questions, I thank you all that you were able to join the live. I'm glad I was able to answer most of your questions, and I will see you on Friday or on Monday. So have a good night, and thank you all. Thanks. Thanks for the information. Bye. Okay, bye, Khadijah. Bye, everyone. Okay, bye, and White. Bye, everyone.